Hey, it's Stevie J here with your UFC Fight Night 33 recap, and we started out with Benoit versus Alex Garcia on Facebook. Now, Ben was the local fighter, and he's nicknamed the Manimal, so he tried to get cute with his walkout, and he was wearing a monkey head, and the girl behind him was wearing a bunny head, and they were all wearing costumes. Well, all the fun to be had in the fight for him was in the walkout to the cage because Alex Garcia knocked him cold with a punch at 43 seconds, and that was the end of his night. But he's apparently Beck Hyatt's boyfriend, so he still wins no matter what. So shout out to Rowdy Beck Hyatt. Then we moved on to the televised prelims on Fox Sports 2, starting with Krzysztof Jotko defeating Bruno Santos 29-28, 29-28, 30-27. And I really don't have any more to say about it. I'm sorry. It was not an overwhelming, exciting fight. And Santos, I just, he faded. He had a good first round, and then Jotko took over in the second and the third. So it's his own fault he lost. Justin Scoggins left nothing to chance with Richie Vasilik. He TKO'd him at 4:43 of the first round. Now, some people think that stoppage was premature, but Scoggins was rocking him on the ground, and Vasilik didn't seem like he was going to get away from it. He might have been turning, but I think he was still going to get hit even as he turned. So I have no problem with the stoppage here. I'd rather too early than too late. So I think this was justified, and Scoggins had an impressive flyweight debut. From there, we moved on to Cam Oglesh versus Nick Ring, and the most notable thing about this fight was the referee Cameron Quinn would threaten stand-ups with ridiculous speed. If it went to the ground, he would tell them to show action just 2 seconds after they hit the ground, and 2 seconds later he'd be threatening to stand them up. And he did this throughout the night too. This wasn't his first offense, but it was offensive. I wish referees would be trained a little better than that and understand that you've got to give fighters time to work when they hit the ground, and if they're in dominant positions on the ground, don't threaten to stand up immediately. It's just dumb. The ground game is part of fighting. Do these guys only watch boxing? Are they not trained in MMA? This shouldn't happen, but it does way too often. Anyway, Kyle Oglesh won this fight 29-28 across the board. Both guys were looking pretty gassed in the third round, but Oglesh had more in the tank than Ring. Takeya Mizugaki defeated Namfan. This was bonused onto the main televised card. Mizugaki got 29-28 times 2 and a 30-28. I'm still trying to figure that one out. This was a slobber knocker of a fight. It was definitely a fight of the night candidate because both guys were trading, going for the liver shots. It was nasty, just a brutal, hard-fought fight. Not a bloody fight, but definitely a tough fight. And Mizugaki was well ahead in the first 2 rounds, and Namfan's corner was brutally honest with him. They were like, you know what? You're losing right now. You're down 2 rounds. You got to go out there and give it everything like it's your career, like this is your last fight. And he did, and he probably took the 3rd round, but that wasn't enough. So can't say he didn't try, and can't say it wasn't a lot of fun to watch. Main card, Besh Correa defeated Julie Kedzie by a split decision, 29-28 times 2 and 28-29, which I have no problem with because you could have scored it either way. One of those rounds was super duper close, and she's still awesome. She does such a great job for Invicta that even if she doesn't get another fight in UFC, I think she should have a job as an interviewer and a commentator for life. So all respect to Julie Kedzie, she just didn't get the win here. Clint Hester left nothing to chance with Dylan Andrews. First round was fairly close. In the second round, he just mauled the hell out of Andrews, got him on the ground, dropped elbows, cut him up, beat him up, and then the doctor stopped it after the end of the second round because Andrews had a dislocated shoulder, which probably was merciful because he was already bloody, bruised, battered, and beaten, so there was no reason for a 3rd round either way. TKO by doctor stoppage after 5 minutes of round 2. And we had another definitive finish in the heavyweight bout that followed as Sol Paulé defeated Pat Barry 2:51 of the first round as he got on top in a full mount and rocked him with ground and pound that caused Pat Barry to go unconscious and his head to bounce off the canvas. And after the fight was stopped and he tried to get up, he face planted. So Barry was definitely finished in this fight. There was no question about it. So the Hulk cut a very enthusiastic promo because he's from Australia, so he led the crowd and then Aussie, 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 oi, 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 and they all responded. So it was definitely the fight for the fans, and he was very grateful for the opportunity to get this big win in front of his home country. Then we moved on to Ryan Bader giving probably the biggest massacre of the entire night to Anthony Perosh, who was taken down repeatedly, punched over and over again in the face, elbowed over and over again in the head. Most of the people who were watching this on Twitter thought these were 10-8 rounds. At least 2 of the 3 were, in my opinion, as well. But the judges scored 2 30-27s and a 30-26, when people on Twitter were talking 30-25 and 30-24. And by people, I mean Adam Martin, John Morgan, Ariel Helwani, people that are in the reporting game. And Perosh looked like he had no business in there with Bader. So Bader needs a much stiffer opponent the next time he fights. Then we had Shogun Hua proving he's not done yet, as he got a devastating knockout on James Tahuna, 103 of the first round. And poor Tahuna never saw this coming, because he was coming in to try to strike with him, and just bad timing on his part that he leaned forward at the exact same time that Shogun threw a left uppercut. It landed flush on the chin. He crumpled like a piece of paper. He just folded up into a little pile and fell to the ground. It was over. It was a big win for Shogun, so props to him. And that leads us to our main event, 2 gigantic heavyweights going toe-to-toe, Mark Hunt and Bigfoot Silva. Put simply, that was 5 rounds of the most brutal but beautiful heavyweight action you will ever see. Both men were covered in their own blood. I'm not kidding you. Mark Hunt and Bigfoot Silva went 25 minutes. You would never have expected that from either of these guys, right? But they did it. And it was an amazing fight, because I had Silva ahead in the first 2 rounds, and Hunt wobbled him in the third and jumped on and just started trying to take him apart. He couldn't quite get the finish, though. Time ran out. Then in the 4th round, same thing happened. Antonio Silva hurt Mark Hunt and was just trying to finish him, but just slumped on top of him to end the round because he was totally out of gas. And these guys were both lumbering around in the 5th round trying to hurt each other. They were everything they had. They were totally spent, but they were still out there trying to fight. And Hunt opened him up with an elbow, and the referee stopped it to check the cut and make sure that it was okay to continue the fight. And thank God they didn't stop it on the cut, because nobody wanted to see that at this point. They wanted a winner or they wanted a finish. And these two just kept going at it all the way to the end, because Bigfoot was still trying to find the knees in the clinch, and Hunt was still trying to get a takedown. He'd gotten takedowns throughout this fight, which was one of the more surprising things about it. I mean, it was an incredible war. And it went to the judges, 48-47 Hunt, and 2 47-47s. So it is a majority draw. This was one of the most epic heavyweight fights in UFC history. If you're listening to me talk about this right now, stop what you're doing, go find a replay of it. I'm not kidding. It was that good. Stevie J, AngryMarks.com. See you tomorrow night for Invicta FC 7. Post-fight press conference videos will be up on this channel.